Recording in progress.
Yes, sir. Just one moment, we can start. Yes, sir, we can start. Thank you. Good afternoon, students. Mr. Tanno Vishwakarma, good evening. Good evening. Yes. I think few more students are just joining in. Keep this in your desk, on your desk. Good evening, Mr. Manivanan. Great. So in the last LVRC, we had question and answer format on a different topic, right? And today we are having question and answer session on another topic. So what we had discussed in the last session was basically mainly we had covered exemptions and value of supply. So we understood where exemptions will be available, where not, and what is the value of supply. Then I think you would have also gone to the LVRC of input tax credit, right? So now your bases are strong in terms of the main aspects. Now it comes to procedural aspects, right? In procedural aspects, what do we have under the GST law? We firstly have registration, because once you apply for registration, then you will do the other procedures and other compliances. So the first part is the registration. So we know basically who is required to do registration, right? So you tell me who is the person or what is the criteria for registration? Yes. What is the criteria for registration under GST? Person whose threshold limit exceeds is required. Yeah. So what is that limit which he should exceed? Yes, Asta Sethi is given the correct answer. Threshold limit of 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs, as the case may be, or compulsory registration. So 20 lakhs or 40 lakhs. What is the case? When is it 20 and when it is 40? Krishna Shah is saying when the person exceeds the specified threshold limit. Right. So what is the specified threshold limit? Yes, Manivaran has now given the correct answer that for supply of goods, the limit is 40 lakhs, and for supply of services, it is 20 lakhs. And for special category states, it is a different limit, right? So, right, Tanu? So that is the limit for registration. So once you do the registration, then your compliance starts. You have to raise an invoice. You may have to correct the invoice when it is a credit note. When there is any corrections, you may have to give a credit note. And when it is the correction in the invoice, you may have to give a debit note. Then you have to file your returns. After filing your returns, one more procedural thing which is mandatory under GST is you should maintain proper books of accounts and records. So accounts and records maintenance is important. And since there were a lot of issues in terms of controlling whether the GST is paid correctly or no, e-way bill and e-invoicing has been introduced. So this is the flow of compliances under GST. So once we do the registration, then you have to raise a tax invoice, credit notes and debit notes, maintain your books of accounts and records, file your returns, and for any movement of goods, you raise a e-way bill. So since you are aware of the aspect of registration, that is a very good sign that yes, you have prepared yourself with the basics very strongly. I really appreciate that. So since you are good at that, we should now start with the Q&A. Whatever questions I've prepared, I will read it out. If any participant wants to read, they can read, and then we will discuss because I want you this time to give me the answers. So you will draft the answer and then I will display the correct answer. Okay. So screen is visible. Okay, so the first question is, with the help of the following information, in the case of Messrs. Giant Enterprises, Jaipur, which is in the state of Rajasthan, for the year 1718, determine the aggregate turnover for the purpose of registration under the CGST Act 2017. The particulars, what has been given to us is sale of diesel on which sales tax or VAT is levied by the Rajasthan government. So, is it possible that we know that GST came in July 2017? So, since GST came in July 2017, can there be collection of sales tax by the Rajasthan government, first of all? Yes, they can collect. So, matlab, on sale of diesels, GST also will be levied and VAT also will be levied. It is supply of diesel, so it is applicable. Only VAT, no GST. Right. Only central excise and VAT. Right. So in diesel, central excise also is not levied. Yeah, central excise is levied and VAT is levied. So when they import, it will be central excise and on sale, then it will be VAT. Central will collect central tax on diesel, but no GST will be levied. Correct. So you're right. On case of 5 petroleum products, VAT is still levied. So that's why sale of diesel on which VAT is levied by Rajasthan government, 1 lakh rupees. These are all the value, not the taxes. Then supply of goods after completion of job work from a place of giant enterprises directly by the principal. Okay, for a worth of 3 lakh rupees. Export supplied to England, UK, 5 lakh rupees. Supplied to its own additional place of business in Rajasthan, 5 lakh rupees. Supply on which GST is to be paid by the recipient under reverse charge, 1 lakh rupees. All the above amounts are exclusive of GST. You are required to provide reasons for treatment of various items given below. So what do we have to do here? The question is to determine the aggregate turnover for the purpose of registration under the GST. Okay, Pooja is saying aggregate turnover is 9 lakhs. Very fast. Presentation, as I always say, presentation is important. How do you present your answers? First is computation of aggregate turnover. And the question already says that you are required to provide reasons for treatment of the various items. So, which we will anyways provide, depends on the number of marks which is awarded to the question. Based on that, you will decide whether a reasoning is required or no. Generally, if you give reasons for your answer, that will carry weightage. Ishan Bish is saying 11 lakhs. Pawan Kumar is also saying 9 lakhs. Okay, let's go line by line. Supply of diesel on which sales tax is levied by the Rajasthan government, that is part of your aggregate turnover. Why? I have given the explanation in note 1 because some items we may say amount is included, sometimes we may say no. Why do we say so is what we have to give in the reasoning. Notes, as per section 2 subsection 47 of the CGST Act, not very relevant that you have to give the correct section, but you can just mention as per the definition of the CGST Act, exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. Correct. So exempt supply also includes non-taxable supply, and supply of diesel is a non-taxable supply, which is an exempt supply, and exempt supply is specifically included in the definition of aggregate supply. Right. So we are calculating aggregate supply. Aggregate supply includes taxable supply, and it also includes exempt supply. And then coming down, filtering it down, exempt supply definition also includes non-taxable supply. So diesel being a non-taxable supply, we will include it. Good evening, Pawan and Nidhi Vishwakarma. So we are going to the first question, wherein the question was given that these are the 5 supplies which is made, and we have to calculate the aggregate turnover for the purpose of registration. First one, 1 lakh rupees we will include, right? Second, supply of goods after completion of job work. Should we include this or no? Tanu Vishwakarma is saying no. Asta is saying include. Pooja is saying yes. Manivanan is saying to be included. So the majority has given the wrong answer. Why will you include this? You should not include it because it is supply of goods after completion of job work. Who is doing the job work? Giant Enterprises is doing the job work, and from Giant Enterprises place of business, it is directly supplied by the principal. Okay, so we have learned this in the concept of job working, that a principal can give some goods to the job worker, and the job worker can give it to the another job worker, or if it is the final stage, the principal may say that from your premises itself, I will supply the goods. Okay, so if he supplies the goods from the place of the job worker, it is not the aggregate turnover of the job worker, because he's only done his job working. He's not selling the goods. He's not owner of these goods. Who is the owner? The principal is the owner. So when principal is the owner, it is his aggregate turnover, not the aggregator turnover of the job worker. Correct? So why will I include it in my turnover? It will be included in the turnover of the principal. Okay? It is not my turnover. ठीक है? Third aspect. So note 2, I have to show you note 2. Supply of goods after completion of job work by a registered job worker shall be treated as supply of goods by the principal in terms of explanation 1 to section 22 of the CGST Act. So for clarity, I am also mentioning the relevant sections also. Export supply of England, what is this treated as? Include specifically. Included. Why is it included? What is exports treated under the GST law? Export is treated as all exports are exempt supply? No. Right. It is a zero rated supply, right? And zero rated supply. No, it's not non-taxable. It is zero rated supply. And zero rated supply also form part of the aggregate turnover. So export supply is a zero rated supply, which means you will not collect any tax on your exports, but it is included in your aggregate turnover. Export supplies are specifically includable in the aggregate turnover in terms of section 2, subsection 6 of the CGST Act. Next is supply to its own additional place of business in Rajasthan. Not included. Why, Pooja? Not included. Asta is also saying you're giving a correct reasoning as well. I don't want to reveal that reason to others. Tell me whether it should be included or not included. Question is supply to its own additional place of business in Rajasthan. Because it is not a supply, they have supplied. No, the question itself says, Pooja, that it is supply to its own additional place of place of business. So it is a supply. Why do you say it is not a supply? If it is not a distinct person, it is to be included. Oh my God, that is dangerous. If it is a distinct person, you will include. If it is not a distinct person, you will not include. So is it a distinct person or no? Correct. Pooja has given the right answer. It is not a distinct person when he sends goods to his own branch and It is not a separate registration. When they say supply to its own additional place of business, which means that when will the additional place of business come? When you have not taken separate registration. When you are registered in the state of Rajasthan, having one registration and having additional place of business. So that branch will be called as additional place of business, which means there is single registration. So within a state, if you have single registration, any branch transfer or any supply to the other premises will not be included. So this also will not be included. So the note 4 will give you some clarity on this aspect. Supply made without consideration to units within the same state, which is under same registration, is not a supply. Okay. But within the state, if you have separate registration, then will you include it? Yes. Then you will include it. Correct. So if you have separate registration within the state, you will include. If it is additional place of business, which means it's a single registration, you will not include. Then the next aspect, outward supply on which GST is to be paid by recipient under reverse charge basis. Included in supplier's turnover. So am I a supplier here? Not includable because it's inward. Pooja is saying. Yes, included as only inward supply under RCM are excluded. Very nice, Ishan. Yes, included. Okay. So, madam, whoever has said that this is an inward supply, this is not an inward supply. That clearly mentioned outward supply on which GST is to be paid by the recipient under reverse charge. So, the tax will be paid by the recipient, but it is a supply of the supplier. So, it will be included in my turnover. So, I will add it in my turnover. Which means what is my aggregate turnover? My aggregate turnover is 7 lakhs. I think I got answers of 7 lakh, 9 lakhs and 11 lakhs, not of 7 lakhs. Outward supplies taxable under reverse charge should be part of the aggregate turnover of the supplier of such supplies. Such turnover is not included in the turnover and the hands of recipient. And Section 22 of the CGST provides that a supplier whose aggregate turnover in the financial year exceeds 40 lakhs in a state is liable to be registered. The applicable turnover for registration in the case will be 40 lakhs, as Rajasthan is not a special category state. Although the aggregate turnover of the Giant Enterprises does not exceed 40 lakhs, it is compulsorily still required. Why do I say? So even though the turnover is below 20 lakhs. I should not have revealed the answer. Okay, I've just revealed the answer, but you think over and tell me, will they register or no? His turnover is 7 lakhs. I've told the threshold limit for Rajasthan, which is 40 lakhs. He is not touching 40 lakhs. So should he register or no? Export turnover under IGST registration compulsory. Okay. Because he's an exporter, he's liable to get registered. Not necessary. If he's an exporter, where does it say if he's an exporter, he should compulsory get liable for registration? No. Yeah, I will tell you the reason that it is compulsory required to register in terms of Section 24(1), irrespective of the turnover, as it is engaged in making interstate supplies. So, if you have any interstate supplies, then you have to compulsory register. In this case, interstate supply is which one? This supply to a export to England. It is all exports and imports are treated or what? Exports and imports are treated as zero rated supply. That is the reason in this case it should be registered, because if you are doing interstate transaction of any value, nominal value also, still you have to compulsory register. So that's the reason in this case he will have to apply for registration. It is previous year. What is previous year, Miss Pooja? Nothing of previous year. In this year itself, in the year which you are there, if you're making any interstate transaction, you have to take registration compulsory. Correct. We calculate aggregate turnover of previous year. No, we are calculating aggregate turnover of 17-18 itself. Right? So in this year itself, we don't see the aggregate turnover of previous year. That we see for composition supply and other things, right? But for registration, you'll see the turnover of current year, not the previous year.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Next question, SNP. Sir, if agriculture is also supplying other than agricultural good in some other state, then if turnover exceeds the limits, then he is also required to register in the state in which we make supply of agriculture products also. Yes, he will have to take registration once he does interstate other than agriculture goods, but he will have to register in the state where he is there, not in the state in which he is making supply. Right? He may be supplying in 10 states. So will he take registration in 10 states? No. He will register in his state, and on his supplies of interstate nature, he will charge IGST. That's why you have IGST, that from your state you can supply to any state. If it is an interstate transaction, you will charge IGST. Okay. This question you will work out. I will read it out for you. SNP Private Limited, Coimbatore, exclusively manufactures and sell products Z, which is exempt from GST-wide notification issued under relevant GST legislations. With notifications, we have dealt it in the previous session on various exemptions. So, he sells the project which is exempt under GST. The company sells Z only within Tamil Nadu. The turnover of the company in the previous year was 55 lakhs. The company expects the sales to grow by 20% in the current year. Owing to the growing demand for the product, the company decides to increase its production capacity and purchases additional machinery for manufacturing Z on 1st July 2000 in year. The purchase price of the capital goods was 20 lakhs exclusive GST at 18%. However, effective from 1st November 2020, same year, exemption available on Z was withdrawn by the central government and GST at 12% was imposed. The turnover of the company for the half year ended on 30th September was 50 lakhs. Okay. The board of directors wants to know whether they have to register under GST. And that is the first question. Second, in case of the above question, SNP Private Limited is already registered. If in case, that's a separate question, if they have already registered with respect to certain taxable supplies made by it along with the manufacture of exempt product Z, other facts remaining same, can it take input tax credit on the additional machinery purchase exclusively for manufacturing Z? If yes, then how much credit can be availed? Advise SNP on the above issues with reference to provisions of the GST law. So this is your question. I'll give you 5 minutes time. Think over and then answer. On the first aspect, what do you think? Everyone has given an answer that since they've crossed the threshold limit, they have to take registration, which is absolutely wrong. Think over. Now, the first aspect is that up till July 17, whatever he was supplying, it was exempted, right? Product H was exempted. Since product H was exempted, should he still register? Section 22 says that every supplier whose aggregate turnover in the financial year exceeds 40 lakhs is liable to be registered in the territory from where he makes the taxable supply of goods or services. However, a person who is exclusively engaged in the business of supplying goods that are not liable to tax or are wholly exempt from the tax is not liable to registration in terms of section 23(1)(a). Okay, a person who is exclusively engaged in the business of supplying goods that are not liable to tax or wholly exempt from tax, they are not liable, irrespective of any turnover. For them, turnover will not apply. They are who's engaged only in exclusive supply of exempted goods. So, in given case, the turnover of the company half year ended 30th September was 50 lakhs, which is more than threshold limit. Therefore, as per 22, normal 22, they are required to register. But as we said, 23 comes as a savior to them, and there they don't have to. 22 says the company will be liable for registration. However, if they are supplying exempted goods, it will not be required to registration, though voluntary registration was allowed. So if they voluntarily want to register, they can, but you have to mention all the provisions. First, section 22 says compulsory registration. 23 says if you're making exempt supply, registration is not required. But 25 says if you want compulsory registration, you can take it. Okay, that being the first aspect. Then, however, the position will change from 1st November. Okay, as on from 1st November, what is happening? The supply of this goods becomes taxable from that day, and therefore the turnover is above 40 lakhs. So, it is important to note that in terms of 2.6, the aggregate turnover of 40 lakhs includes exempt also, right? Therefore, turnover of Z will be considered for aggregate turnover for calculating registration from 1st November. So from 1st November, they will have to register, not otherwise. Okay. Within 30 days from 1st of November. That also you have to specifically write. Now on the second aspect, so first we know that registration is not required, but from 1st July, registration will be required. In this second aspect, what will happen? For the second machinery, for the machinery which has been purchased, right? The machinery, of course, this is out of syllabus for you because this deals with rule 42 and 43, but for your understanding and giving an answer that uh, for the machinery which was purchased on July, sorry. So first aspect was 1st November onwards, he has to register within 30 days from 1st November and take the registration within 1st of December. Now, the machinery was purchased in July. That is before this taxation came in. So, whatever purchases he makes on 20 lakhs, 18%. is 3,60,000 rupees. So on 3,60,000 rupees, he cannot claim the credit on 1st July. So whatever we have read section 18, right? When a taxable goods becomes exempted or when a exempted goods becomes taxable. So in this case, this is the second scenario where the exempted goods is becoming taxable, right? So when the exempted goods becomes taxable, how much quarter you have utilized it. So it's purchased on 1st July. July, August, September, one quarter will get over, and October, November, December will be the second quarter. So for 2 quarters, he cannot claim the credit. Okay. So on 20 lakhs, 18%, that is the credit which is cannot be utilized instantly. But since it becomes taxable on 20 lakhs at 18%, into 2 quarters, you have to reduce. So which makes it as, I'll just mention it here on question number B. 20 lakhs into 18%. This is how much? 3.6 lakhs. Correct? Now, this is the ITC on machinery. Right? So when did he buy? In July. 1st July. July, August, September to 30th September is one quarter. Then 1st October to October, November, December to 31st December is second quarter. Okay. So 3.6 lakhs into 2 quarters into 2 divided by. So generally, how much percentage we should reduce each quarter के लिए 5%. Okay. How much is this? 3.6 into 2 quarters at 5%. $36,000. So 36,000 will go off, which is not claimable because during that period you were not registered or you were not liable to pay taxes. So balance, which is 3.6 lakhs minus, I mentioned this ताकि clarification हो जाए, 3,60,000 minus 36,000, which is 3,24,000 is claimable. Correct. Till December, but you have to consider part of the quarter as is also the full quarter. So 10% will be deducted as part of the quarter. You're right. Clear? Next, question number 3. Mahadev Enterprises is a sole proprietorship firm opening a shop in opened a shopping complex dealing in supply of goods at multiple locations, that is Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, and Tripura in the month of June. It has furnished the following details relating to sales made at each locations for the month of June. In Himachal Pradesh, what did he do? He did intrastate sale of taxable goods. And in Tripura also, he made intrastate sale of taxable goods of 7 lakh rupees. Intrastate sale of exempted goods, nothing in Himachal, but there is something in Tripura. Interest received from banks on fixed deposits is happening in Tripura for 60,000 rupees. Intrastate sale of non-taxable goods is 21 lakhs in Uttarakhand and 40,000 in Tripura. All of these values are excluding GST. With the help of above mentioned information, answer the following questions by giving reasons as well. Determine whether Mahadev Enterprises is liable to be registered under GST law and what is the threshold limit for taking registration in this case. Explain with reasons whether your answer one will change. So that will come. First year, determine whether Mahadev Enterprises is liable to be registered under GST law and what is the threshold limit for taking registration in this case. Is liable to register and the threshold limit is 10 lakh rupees. Pooja is saying it will be liable for registration because threshold limit for Mahadev is 10 lakhs as he has supplied goods in Tripura, which is a special category state. Good observation. Santosh is saying one state is a special category, that is Tripura. Ishan is saying has to register as aggregate turnover exceeds the 10 lakhs in Tripura. Asta City is saying, sir, in Q2, if not 1st November, it will be 31st December. Then also 2 quarters provided registration within 30 days. Correct. For the previous, right? Yep. So here, for the first question, answer is this. As per section 22 of the CGST Act, read with notification pen. Okay, not relevant, but yeah, you'll have to just keep it in your mind. A supplier is liable to be registered in the state or union territory from where he makes a taxable supply of goods or services if his aggregate turnover in the financial year exceeds the threshold limit. The threshold limit for a person making exclusive intrastate supplies is as under 10 lakhs in case of Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, and Nagaland, 20 lakhs in state of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Puducherry, Sikkim, Telangana, and Uttarakhand, and 40 lakhs for the rest of states in India. So the threshold limit for a person making exclusive taxable supply of services, a supply of both goods and services is as under. Might be what is relevant for us, only that we will mention. 10 lakhs in the case of Mizoram and 20 lakhs in case of rest of India. So as per 2.6, aggregate turnover includes all the following, which is all taxable supplies, exempt supplies, exports, interstate supplies. The above is computed on India basis. So in light of the above, what is the aggregate turnover of Mahadev Enterprises? Himachal Pradesh and Tripura intrastate sale we will include. Interstate sale of exempted goods also we will include. Interest received from banks on fixed deposit should be included because they have asked what is the limit and what is the aggregate turnover also. Ishan is saying not to be included. Santosh is saying yes, excluded. Tannu Vishwakarma is saying yes, not to be excluded. Yes, it would be included, is what Miss Pooja is saying. Here, the majority wins. Interest received from banks on fixed deposit is to be included. Okay. For aggregate turnover, we will include, but taxable turnover, we will not include. Right, Pooja. And it's happening. Intrastate sale of non-taxable goods, that will also be included, right? So aggregate turnover is 22 lakhs, 21 lakhs, and 14 lakhs respectively. So this is the aggregate turnover. Now the notes for why we are including what we are including is as follows. Service by way of extending deposit, loans or advances insofar as the consideration is represented by way of interest is exempt, right? It is a exempt turnover since aggregate turnover includes exempt turnover. Interest received from banks is to be included in the aggregate turnover. So it is not that we have to pay tax on it. We don't have to pay, right? But what will happen is that we will include it in the aggregate turnover. That's all. Okay. Next is as per section 247, exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. Thus, intrastate supply of non-taxable goods being non-taxable supply is an exempt supply and therefore included in the aggregate turnover. Adev Enterprises engaged exclusively intrastate supply of goods from Himachal Pradesh. Right? He is engaged in exclusive supply of goods in the state of Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand and in supply of both goods and exempted services from Tripura. So threshold limit will be 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs and 10 lakhs respectively. Since Mahadev Enterprises also makes taxable supply of goods from one of the specified category of states. So as you have already pointed out, so Tripura is 10 lakhs. So he will have to take the registration. I think next question is with respect to the next. Okay, thus in view of the above provision, Mahadev Enterprise is liable to be registered since his aggregate turnover amounting to 57 lakhs and the applicable threshold limit for him is 40 lakhs. Now we'll come to the next aspect. Yes, Pooja, what is your question?
Sir, its answer is too long, and this type of question is asked for only for 6 marks. Then it will take so lot of time. So how we will write it so long, sir?
See, if you give more clarity, it is much better, right? So if you can concise this answer, you can concise it, but the question does not require you to specify these things, which is given for your information, like 10 lakhs in the state of Mizoram, 20 lakhs, these things, which I will highlight now. This may not be required. Okay. This yellow part will not be required. You just mention that what all you will include in the aggregate turnover and mention the reason that since the supply is happening from a state which is a state where you are making supply, where the limit is reduced to 10 lakhs. So the threshold limit will be considered as 10 lakhs for all the states. So additional pointers like this is not compulsory to be given.
So, sir, only Tripura threshold limit will be sufficient for reasoning.
Yes.
Okay.
Very relevant question because इतना बड़ा तो मैं समझा दूंगा आप लिखोगे नहीं तो क्या फायदा, right? Because you don't have to write additional pointers. Next, so once we understood that this is the turnover, next one thing what I could get is from this one pointer, which was a good learning, is that interest received from banks on fixed deposits we generally not include it, but we should include it in the aggregate turnover since it is exempt. Next is explain with reasons. Next, explain with reasons whether your answer in one will change in the following independent cases. If Mahadev Enterprises is dealing in taxable of supply of goods only from Himachal Pradesh. If he's dealing in taxable supply of goods only from Himachal Pradesh. Nidhi, what is your question? Can you unmute yourself?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
सर माय क्वेश्चन इज दैट जैसे कोई भी क्वेश्चन हम रीड करते हैं तो उसके बिहाफ पे हम कैसे कंसीडर करेंगे कि वो किस चैप्टर का है और कौन सा प्रोविजन लगेगा, ये समझने में मुझे थोड़ी दिक्कत हो रही है। तो अगर कुछ एक्सप्लेन कर देते तो मुझे हेल्प हो जाती, ये जानना
हम्म,
चाह।
ठीक है। हमने चैप्टर स्टार्टिंग अपन ने अटेंड नहीं किया, ये सब हम रजिस्ट्रेशन चैप्टर से कर रहे हैं। तो रजिस्ट्रेशन चैप्टर से आपको पता चल जाएगा ये। सेकेंड है कि आपको क्या होगा कि एग्जाम में आपको कौन से चैप्टर से ये क्वेश्चन है वो नहीं दिया जाएगा, करेक्ट?
यस सर।
तो आपको क्वेश्चन पेपर में जब चैप्टर नहीं दिया जाएगा तो फिर आपको क्या करना है, चैप्टर वाइज पढ़ के पूरा बुक को पढ़ना होगा। यू हैव टू रीड द होल बुक, राइट? आपको पूरा इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स का जो टॉपिक है चैप्टर वाइज कंप्लीट करके पूरा का पूरा आपको वर्कआउट करना पड़ेगा, देन यू विल गेट दैट कॉन्फिडेंस। क्योंकि एग्जाम में तो चैप्टर वाइज या कोई भी, नॉट इवन सीए एग्जाम, दूसरे एग्जाम्स में भी आपको कौन से चैप्टर से एक क्वेश्चन ये तो नहीं दिया जाएगा।
यस सर।
सो दे विल गिव फ्रॉम द होल सिलेबस अंडर द जीएसटी लॉ ओनली। तो आपको अभी के लिए मैंने हर क्वेश्चंस के ऊपर टॉपिक्स दिया हुआ है, उस रेलेवेंट टॉपिक्स को आप पढ़ सकते हैं, ठीक है?
डन सर।
लेकिन एग्जाम के लिए आपको पूरा प्रिपेयर होना चाहिए, आपको चैप्टर वाइज क्वेश्चंस नहीं दिया जाएगा। एक चैप्टर, दो चैप्टर, तीन चैप्टर से मिक्स करके भी दिया जाएगा क्वेश्चंस।
तो मतलब सर मैं यही जानना चाह रही हूँ ना कि अगर क्वेश्चन को रीड करने के मतलब एक ही तरीका है कि जब तक पूरे प्रोविजन याद नहीं होंगे तो क्वेश्चन देख के समझ नहीं आएगा कि किस चैप्टर से रिलेवेंट।
नहीं, वो एग्जाम के लिए, लेकिन यहाँ पे तो मैंने टॉपिक वाइज ही दिया।
जी ओके, थैंक यू सर।
तो आप इसको पढ़ेंगे तो प्रैक्टिस
एग्जाम
करते
पॉइंट
करते।
ऑफ व्यू से।
करेक्ट, एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आपको चैप्टर नहीं दिया जाएगा, आपको पूरा ही पढ़ना पड़ेगा।
जी सर, थैंक यू सो मच सर।
Okay, so your varied questions are there. Solve. Sunil Kumar is suggesting you solve last year question paper for getting to know or getting confident. Good, Sunil Kumar. That's a good suggestion. Okay, so in coming back to our question, Himachal Pradesh में अगर sale कर रहा है, so should he register or no? If you are saying yes, he has to. If you are saying no, he need not. If Mahadev Enterprises is dealing in supply of goods only from Himachal Pradesh, the applicable threshold limit for registration will be 40 lakhs. Correct? Because we understood कि सिर्फ त्रिपुरा ही special category state है, Himachal Pradesh is not. So the limit is 40 lakhs. So Mahadev Enterprises will not be liable for registration if his aggregate turnover is 22 lakh 50,000. Right? फिर कहाँ गया question? Question number B. If Mahadev Enterprises is dealing in taxable supply of goods and services only from Himachal Pradesh. So there it is written taxable supply of goods from HP that could be assumed in answer that from Tripura is making exempt supply. Mention no intra-state supply of taxable exempted. They mentioned there's no assumption which is required, no Asta. Yes, Ishan, you're given the correct answer. Kushi, correct answer. Yes, Tanu, correct answer. In additional question, it is written taxable goods from HP. Yes, HP it is called no taxable goods only. क्या है आपका question? I'm not getting your question.
सर हेयर कैन वी एज्यूम कि त्रिपुरा से सारी एग्जम्प्ट सप्लाईज हो रही हैं बिकॉज क्वेश्चन में लिखे कि टैक्सेबल सप्लाई हिमाचल प्रदेश से हो रही हैं.
Explain with reasons whether your answer will change if Mahadev Enterprises is dealing in taxable supply of goods only from Himachal Pradesh. इसका मतलब ये हो गया कि assume that he is doing taxable supply of goods only from Himachal Pradesh and nowhere else.
And exempt in Tripura, exempt supplies.
No, that they have not mentioned anything, so we can't assume that.
Okay, sir.
Pooja, what is your point? I did not understand. Third point में चले गए आप. Very fast you are. Second point. Yes, second point. Everybody is given a correct answer that if he is Mahadev Enterprises is dealing in taxable supply of goods and services only from Himachal Pradesh, then higher limit of 40 lakhs will not be applicable. Then the limit will be 20 lakhs, and Mahadev Enterprises will be liable for registration in the second scenario also. Third scenario, if Mahadev Enterprises is dealing in taxable supply of goods only from Himachal Pradesh, okay, and has also affected interstate supplies of taxable goods amounting to 4 lakhs, then what will be the case? Correct, correct. He is liable to register. Everybody is cut it as they are making interstate supply. करेक्ट. अब तक तो हम जान चुके रहेंगे इसको. In case of interstate supply of taxable goods, Section 24 of the CGST Act requires compulsory registration irrespective of the quantum of aggregate turnover. Therefore, Mahadev Enterprises will be liable for registration. Good. Next question, छोटा question, answer भी छोटा ही होगा. From the following information, you are required to determine whether XYZ Limited Incorporated in Rajasthan is liable to be registered under the GST law if the company has affected following supplies within the state of Rajasthan. Interstate supply of goods chargeable with GST 5%, interstate supply of goods which are wholly exempt, interstate supply of goods chargeable nil rate 28,50,000. Okay, 40.01 lakhs, 40 lakhs, Exceeds, just by saying exceeds is sufficient, or you should calculate the aggregate turnover? Yes. Interstate, there is no interstate over here, Santosh. Everything is intrastate. Again, this is a long answer, but might not be relevant. So we know this aggregate turnover part. Just mention the aggregate turnover includes all the turnover. Computation of aggregate turnover, we have already worked it, so I don't have to spend much time. Intrastate supply, yes, is to be included. Intrastate supply wholly exempt has to be included, nil. So 40 lakh 1000, yes, many of you have given the correct calculation that 40 lakh 1000 has to be considered, and give the working notes why are you including it, and you say it is crossing 40 lakhs. So even if it is crosses by 1000 rupees, it is liable to get registered. Okay. Next, very simple. Tax invoice, credit notes, and debit notes. Snow White Industries Delhi entered into a contract with Glow White Enterprises Delhi for supply of parts of machine on 10th September 2019. The spare parts were to be delivered on 30th September. Determine the date by which invoice must be issued by Snow White Industries under the GST law. Thirtieth September, 30th September or before. 30th September. Okay. So most of you are given date of September as per section 21. Invoice shall be issued before or at time of removal of goods where the supply involves movement of goods. Accordingly, in the given case, the invoice must be issued on or before 29 September. So they entered into a contract for machine on 10th. That is not relevant, definitely. The spare parts were to be delivered on 30th September. So before removal. So technically 30th is the correct answer. 29th is not the correct answer. Before 30th, because 30th is when he is delivering it. And so 30th only will be the date, not 29th. You can't raise an invoice before and sell it the next day. Mr. Lakhan provides continuous supply of services to TNB Limited. He furnishes the first. So your Nidhi, I've given the chapter heading. तो इस chapter से आपको पता चल जाएगा कि answer यहाँ से ही मिलेगा आपको. So we are applying the provisions of tax invoice, credit and debit. Mr. Lakhan provides continuous supply of services to TNB. He furnishes the following information: date of commencement of providing continuous supply of service 1st October, date of completion 31st January, date of receipt of payment 30th March. Determine the time of issue of invoice as per the provisions of CGST Act in the following circumstances. If no due date for payment is agreement payment is agreed upon by both under the contract of CSS. So first instance, second instance, then the third instance. Okay. As per 31(5), in case of continuous supply of services, the time limit for issuance of invoice is as under, where the due date of payment is ascertainable from the contract. Okay, when the no due date of payment is agreed, where the due date of payment is ascertainable contract, the invoice shall be issued on or before the due date of payment. In second instance, so we have three instances under this law where the due date is ascertainable. Second is where the due date of payment is not ascertainable. Where the due date of payment is ascertainable, the invoice shall be issued before that date. When the due date is not ascertainable, the invoice shall be issued before or the time when the supplier of service receives the payment. Where the due date of payment is linked to completion of an event, then the invoice shall be issued on or before the date of completion of that event. Yeah, of course, you don't have to mention it, just for your understanding. Thus, first part, if no date of payment is agreed upon by both under the contract of CSS, the invoice shall be issued on or before 30th of March, right? If payment is linked to the completion of service. Second is if payment is linked to the completion of service. Before the date of completion of service, you have to raise it, which is 30th of January. And in third case, where the has to make the payment on 25th March as per the contract between them, then the invoice has to be raised by when? By the 25th March itself. Here. So only writing section 31 will be suffice, and we have to mention 31 if you write the just 31 should be sufficient. Yeah. लास्ट पॉइंट सी में क्या हो रहा है, ये वाला ना, या ये वाला फर्स्टली वेयर द ड्यू डेट ऑफ पेमेंट इज लिंक्ड टू कंप्लीशन ऑफ एन इवेंट. ओके, इफ तब कब इनवॉइस रेज करेंगे? कंटिन्यूस सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस हमको पता है कि जब 3 महीने से ज्यादा सर्विस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है तब उसे कहते हैं कंटिन्यूस सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस. सो वेयर द ड्यू डेट ऑफ पेमेंट इज लिंक्ड टू कंप्लीशन ऑफ एन इवेंट, then the invoice should be issued before the date of completion of that event. अगर पेमेंट बेसिस है तो पेमेंट के पहले, कंप्लीशन ऑफ इवेंट के बेसिस है तो उसके पहले रेस करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन फर्स्ट केस इंपॉर्टेंट है, जब असर्टेन नहीं होता है तब पेमेंट रिसीव करने से पहले आपको इनवॉइस रेस करना है. राइट, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. उसके बाद एक ब्रेक ले लेंगे. यप. ABC Limited, a registered supplier, has made the following taxable supplies to its customer, Mr. P, in the quarter ending 30th June 2021. These are the particulars. He has made the following taxable supplies, not invoice. He's made the following supplies. He sold notebooks, sold chart papers, he sold crayon colors, he sold Poster colors, we sold pencil box. Goods in respect of bill number 102, which is this bill number 230 and 254 has been returned by Mr. P. You are required to advise ABC Limited whether it can issue a consolidated credit note against these invoices. So in case of continuous supply of goods, then if both dates are given for successive statements and successive payments, then which date to be taken, whichever is earlier, it will be one of them. It will be continuous supply of goods if it will be given successive statements or successive payments. Ishan is saying a consolidated credit note cannot be issued as the value exceeds 200 rupees. Pooja is saying yes, it can. If both of you can unmute and give in your points as for and against, it would be a good debate. Can you unmute?
Good evening, sir.
Yes, Ishan, you can start on your point.
Sir, as each of the invoices exceeds the value of 200, so consolidated cannot be issued. My
Okay.
point.
Pooja, what is your counter?
Sir, but it is credit note, so it can issue, I think, without the amount. Whichever is given. Credit note may be issued consolidated, sir.
Okay, but for any value?
I think yes.
Okay.
But for invoice, the limit of 200 is applicable.
Okay. Yes, Golti Anil, you want to add something?
Sir, as per latest amendment, we can issue consolidated credit note. There is no restriction. Like as someone said, 200. It is wrong as per me. Right.
So when one or more tax invoices have been issued and the taxable value in that invoice is found to exceed, reasons for credit note, then one consolidated or four credit notes can be issued in respect of multiple invoices issued in the financial year without linking the same to individual invoices. Therefore, in view of the above provision, ABC can issue a consolidated credit note for the goods returned in respect of all the three invoices. So there is no requirement of kind of giving separate credit notes. And to the aspect of 200 rupees, that is when you make a sales to an unregistered person. Then that 200 limit applies, not in case of a credit note. Right, Kirti Dugar, you're right. So consolidated tax invoice is as per customer. No, when you make supply to unregistered person and the customer does not ask you for an invoice, then you can issue a consolidated invoice at the end of the day. One or more credit notes issue? No, only one credit note. More credit notes not required. You can issue one, or if you want more, you can issue, right? But it's not compulsory that you should issue one-on-one credit note. इतना space क्यों है यार? Okay, so we'll take a break here and then come back to accounts and records and other topics. हाँ सर. Hmm? So next question is on accounts and records. Mala Services is a supplier of management consultancy services. It has approached you to ascertain the period for which the books of accounts or other records needs to be maintained. So we have read this accounts and records. According to that, what is your answer for this? How long should they maintain the books of accounts? 72 months, that is 6 years. Miss Pooja is saying 6 years. As per section 36, Ishan is saying the book shall be maintained for a period of 72 months from the due date of furnishing annual returns for the year to which the books of accounts pertains. Okay. Anyone else? Six years, Dhanush, but from when? 72 months from the date of filing return. So return for the month of April, because you have 12 months, 12 different returns, Dhanu. Which return? One year or 6 years, whichever is later. अरे बाप रे, एक साल या 6 साल, whichever is later. So 6 years is later. Annual return. Okay. From the due date of furnishing of annual return. Okay. 72 months from annual filing of return. So not from the due date of return, annual filing. So annual filing is happening in December. You will file it in September. So you will reduce 3 months period. So you will file for 24-25 in the month of September. So you can keep the books of account till September. If they come in October, any officer comes in October, you will tell you have filed your returns in September. So your time limit is over. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Manivanan?
So the period has to be counted from the date of filing of last annual return, and the books of accounts has to be maintained for 6 years, as per me.
Correct. 6 years from the last annual return.
Yeah, sir.
So for the year 2000, you are in this year, which is your financial year, which year you are in now? You are in the financial year 2025-26. So last annual return will be,
Yeah, sir.
last annual return will be for which year you would have filed your last annual return?
Like
You would have
2021, sir.
after that you have not filed the annual return.
Sorry, sir.
So it is not the last annual return, it is the annual return for the relevant financial year.
Okay,
Okay.
fine. Got it, sir.
return will make it long. So you have to mention
Yes.
annual return for the relevant year.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So here is the answer. Section 36 of the CGST Act stipulates that every registered person is required to keep maintain books of accounts in accordance with the provisions of the Section 35 shall retain them until period of 72 months. So everybody is confident of the 72 months. Nobody has made a mistake. But 72 months from when? That is also important. From the expiry of 72 months from the due date of furnishing of the annual return pertaining to such accounts and records. Okay. So which means for the year 2018-19. Okay. Say the due date of filing annual return was 31st December. Okay. 31st December. What will be the year? 2018 or 19? 2019. Correct? Yes. So 2019 is the due date. Okay. Now the government is extended the due date. For some reason, second year of thing, and they have extended the due date to 31st of March 2020. Okay. Now, till when will you maintain the books of accounts? Okay, let me put the answers. Option A, I'll be getting a lot of options. Option A, Ishan is saying 31st December 2025. Asta is also saying 31st December 25. Pooja is saying 31st March 2026. Any more options anybody wants to give? 31st March 26, Manivaran. Anybody else? Or if these two, which one are you opting for? That was March 26. Okay. Right. So the correct answer is Tannu saying 31st December. So if the due date is extended, then your maintenance period also will extend because the original due date was 31st December. Now they have extended. So they have not extended to one person or two person, they have extended to everyone. So since the date is extended, the limit to maintenance of books of accounts also will get extended because they say 72 months from the due date of furnishing annual returns. Earlier due date was 31st December. Now it got extended to 31st March. So it will be 72 months, which is 6 years from 31st March 22. So the answer will be 31st March 2026. Okay. Now, so let me now change the question. For 1920, the due date is 31st December 2020 and extended due date is say 31st January 2021. Okay. And actual filing, our company Mala Services was very active and they have filed it on 30th September only. So in this case, period up to which the books have to be maintained. Of course, here also I will give you options. My friends will give me a lot of options here. If due dates extend only for Mala services, no, the provisions does not allow to extend for each individual person. That is not possible. Anyone is saying 31st January 2027. Oh, sorry, you have mentioned correct. I have mentioned it wrong. Astha is also saying 1-1. Astha is also saying this. Pooja is saying also 31st January 2027. Kushi is also saying 31st January 2027. तन्नु विश्वकर्मा is also saying 31st January 2027. अब सब maximum ये बोल चुके तो everybody will tell this one, Lino. Is anybody on for with me for 30th September 2026? Nobody. Right. So nobody with me. So I will strike this off. So the correct answer is yes, it is 31st January. So even if the actual filing you are doing before itself, your maintenance of books will be from the due date of filing annual return. The due date is 31st January. So 6 years from there. So it is 31st January 2027. Correct. Correct. Right? However, a registered person, he is now this is the exception. However, a registered person who is party to an appeal or revision or any other proceedings before the appellate authority or revisional authority or appellate tribunal or court, whether filed by him or by the commissioner or is under investigation for an offense under Chapter 19, shall retain the books of accounts and other records pertaining to the subject matter of such appeal or revision or proceedings or investigation for a period of 1 year after final disposal. So whenever normal time limit is 72 months, but if you have gone an appeal, then and the appeal is under pending. So till it is pending, you have to keep your books of accounts. Even if it goes for 10 years, you have to keep the relevant books of accounts because it may be asked during any stage of appeal. So you have to keep it at that till the appeal is going on. And also after the appeal gets concluded, 1 year after the final disposal of such appeal. क्योंकि एक साल बाद भी कुछ रेक्टिफिकेशन रिविजन कुछ भी हो सकता है. So 1 year after the final disposal, till then you have to keep or the normal time limit, whichever is later. Okay, so I think somebody was saying 1 year or 6 years, correct? But you are not giving your correct answer. Who's that? Who's that? Nidhi Vishwakarma, you are saying 1 year or 6 years? Yes. So it is 6 years in normal cases and 1 year from the date of any proceedings. In case of proceedings before appellate authority, revisional authority, tribunal, or any court, 1 year from then. So you have to give a precise answer. Just 1 year or 6 years will not give you a correct marks. Clear? Yes, Pooja.
Sir, can you explain it with example? I can't understand 1 year, provision of 1 year.
Sure. So 1920, we know that the normal due date is 31st January 2027. Correct? Now, for 1920, you have filed your annual return and actually you filed on September. Now, there is a notice which is issued on, okay, 31st December 2024. They have time limit to issue notice up till 5 years. Okay. So they have issued a notice on 31st December 2024. You have filed a reply on 31st January 2025. And after that, they have passed an order on the 31st March 2025. Okay. Now, order has been passed. You are not agreeing with this order. If you would have agreed, you will pay it off, matter gets closed. But you are not agreeing to this order. You have filed an appeal on 31st June 2025. Okay. And the order has been decided, okay, on 31st March 2027. Okay. Now, there is an order which has got decided on 31st March 27, but the period for which you have to maintain books of accounts originally is only 31st January 27. So when any order has been passed, you have to retain it up till that stage, plus 1 year from the date of order, which is 31st March 2028. So you have to maintain your books of accounts from 31st March up to 31st March 28 or 31st January 2027, whichever is later. Which is later in our case, 31st March 2028. So if you have filed any appeal and you have received any order 1 year from the date of that order or the actual maintenance of books of accounts period, whichever is later, you have to maintain your books for 1920 in our example till 31st March 2028. Thanks, Nidhi. 30th June. Okay. Okay. Swad Restaurant has opted for composition scheme in the current financial year. Discuss the records which are not to be maintained by the supplier opting for composition levy as enumerated in Rule 56 of the CGST rules. Very simple question. Theoretical and simple. No answers. Small questions can bring marks and can definitely help you. Right. Since theoretical, I think you're not paying the attention. No problem. Following records are not required to be maintained by the supplier who has opted for composition scheme. One is stock of goods, wherein account of stock in respect of goods received and supplied by him, and such accounts shall contain particulars of opening balance, receipt, supply, goods lost, stolen, destroyed, written off, or disposed of by way of gift or free sample, and the balance. This is not required to be maintained. And details of tax, details of tax, account containing details of taxable supply, tax collected, input tax credit. So these are the things which is not required to be maintained by a composition dealer. Next question. ABC Manufacturers engages Raghav and Sons as an agent to sell goods on its behalf. For this purpose, ABC has supplied goods to Raghav and Sons located in Haryana. Enumerate the accounts which is required to be maintained by Raghav and Sons, who's an agent. Right. Ishan has given the correct answer. Every agent shall maintain the accounts depicting the particulars of authorization received by him from each principal to receive particulars of the authorization, particulars including description, value, and quantity of the goods, particulars including description, value of goods supplied on behalf of every principal, details of accounts furnished to every principal, and tax paid on receipts. So accounts and records, these are the things. I have not added much questions on accounts and records because you may get mostly theoretical questions itself on accounts and records. Correct. Okay, next move towards e-waybill. Okay. Can a transporter furnish the information in Part A of Form EWB1? Yes, he can provide information party. Generally, party is by the supplier or the receiver. But if he gets an authorization from the register person, then the transporter can furnish the details in part A. He can, he can. Don't say no. Generally, it is no, but if he gets an authorization, then he can. Second question, in case where goods are sent by the principal in one state to a job worker in another state, who shall generate the e-way bill? Good. In case of e-way bill, you're taking part. Nice. Transporter will furnish e-way bill too. Consigner or consignee can also generate e-way bill if goods are handed over to the transporter. Transporter part B, anyone can generate e-way bill. Principal. Okay, lot of answers, which is contradictory. In this case, e-way bill shall be generated by the principal or the job worker if registered, irrespective of the value of the consignment. So it can be both. Anybody can generate. Is e-waybill required in case of movement of handicraft goods when such person is not registered under GST? Yes, is what Ishan says. Asta Sethi is saying, sir, it is correct. Consigner or consignee can also generate e-waybill even if goods are handed over to the transporter for transportation by road. Correct. Yes, yes, it is mandatory. No is what Nidhi is saying, but the correct answer is this, that yes, e-waybill is required to be generated irrespective of the value of consignment and not being registered as GST for handicraft goods. So specifically for handicraft goods, it has to be through an e-waybill itself. What do you mean by consignment value? Okay, now we'll quickly go. I'll not wait for the answers. When we come for practical, that time I will tell you. The consignment value of the goods shall be the value as declared in the invoice or a bill of supply or delivery challan issued in respect of the such consignment. Okay, so e-way bill has to be generated where the consignment value exceeds 50,000. Consignment value means the value what is mentioned in the invoice. Sometimes invoice may not be raised, a bill of supply may be raised, or a delivery challan may be raised. So whenever any of these things are there, then it can be done, which is issued in respect of the said consignment, and also includes not only the value of the supply, it includes value and the taxes also, and it includes the central tax, state tax, or unitary tax, integrated tax, and cess if any in the document, and shall exclude the value of exempt supply of goods. It only excludes the value of exempt supplies, but it always includes taxable supply and the tax also. So movement of goods takes place within the state or union territory. Will an e-way bill be required? Yes, definitely it will be required for the movement of goods 50 kilometers within the state or union territory. The details of transporter is not required. Will e-way bill be required? Yes, e-way will be required, but transporter's details will not be required. But the question is different. The question is whether you raise a within the state also. Yes, if it is beyond 50 kilometers, within 50 kilometers, the details of transporter will not be required. Power Electricals, a registered supplier of air conditioner, is required to send some goods from Mumbai, a consignment of parts of air conditioner to be replaced under warranty at various clients' location in Gujarat. The value of the consignment declared is 70,000. Power Electricals claim that since movement of goods is caused due to reasons other than supply, right? They're not supplying, they're only giving it for repair. So e-way bill is not mandatory. So you are required to give whether e-way bill is mandatory or no. Mandatory required. Oh my baapre. Mandatory required. It's a very strong answer. Tanu Vishwakarma is saying required. Yes. Good. Giving the right answers now. I didn't expect on e-waybill you'll be giving right answers, but you're giving right answers. E-waybill is required even if the movement of goods is for reasons other than supply. The goods to be moved to another state for replacement under warranty is not a supply. However, if the value exceeds 50,000 rupees, then you have to. So thus, in the given case, since the consignment value exceeds 50,000, e-bill is required to be mandatorily registered or mandatorily generated. Therefore, the claim of power electricals that it is not required to be generated is incorrect. Yes, if the movement of goods is from one place to another place, if it is no supply, still you have to generate it. Gyan Publication, registered under GST in Delhi, is engaged in printing and selling of books as well as trading. He has provided the following information: consignment, which is supplied. So this you will have to work out, because this is a sum on e-waybill. Very rarely you get a question on e-waybill. So quickly, 5 minutes for this. Then we have one more question. You have to do this one yourselves. This is the theoretical aspect. What is the consignment value you have to consider? First answer I get is 59,000. $50,000 plus 18%. Okay, so 59,000. 64,300 Tanu Vishwakarma. अरे पूजा, required to generate e-waybill ठीक है, लेकिन what is the consignment value? Calculate the consignment value. Don't get deviated and give your judgment in your answers. You don't require judgment. You require precision and calculation. Right. Consignment value 59,000. Right, like that. Okay. In the given case, the consignment value will be as follows. Taxable value on the tax invoice 35,000. Right. उसके ऊपर GST 18%, 6,300. 41,300 for supplies indicated on the tax value. Then second aspect, value of exempted supplies, the same shall not be included, तो include नहीं करेंगे. Third one, value of goods to be sent to the job worker on delivery challan. Here what have you done? You have added 15,000 plus 18%. क्या value of goods sent to the job worker पूरा sale है? It is not a sale, it is a delivery challan where you're supplying the goods. So why will you add tax on that? You'll only consider 15,000. You will not add tax on that. So nobody has given a correct answer. Everybody said the consignment value is 59,000. Actually, the consignment value for the purpose of generating the e-waybill is 56,300. But anyhow, your answer may be right. You will not get full marks because your calculation half is correct, that you're adding tax of 18% on whole value. You should not add value on the job working. Here, this is a danger zone. Be careful over here. So total supply blanket 18%. Don't do that. Taxable value on which tax invoice is raised, their tax will be involved. On non-tax invoice, You don't have to add GST. Next, Beauty Cosmetics has multiple wholesale outlets of cosmetic products in Mumbai, Maharashtra. It receives an order for cosmetics worth 1,20,000, which is inclusive of GST leviable at 18% from Prasanna, who is owner of a retail cosmetic store in Delhi. While checking the stock, it is found that order worth 50,000 can be fulfilled from company's Dadar store and remaining goods of 6,000 can be sent from Malad store. Both the stores are instructed to issue separate invoice for the goods sent to Prasanna. The goods are transported to Prasanna in Delhi in a single conveyance, which is owned by Radhe Transporters. You are required to advise Beauty Cosmetics with regard to issuance of e-way bills. Why exempt supply not added? वो हमने provisions देखा है ना, तो यहाँ पे provision से देखिए वहां पे बोलता है कि what is the consignment value integrated tax charge in the document and shall exclude the value of exempt supply of goods. Where the invoice is issued in respect of both exempt and taxable supply, exempt supply of goods का value आपको e-way bill में डालने की जरूरत नहीं है. Number of e-way bill is equal to number of e-way bill. Wow. Number of e-way bill is equal to number of e-way bill. What is the new thing in that? Separate e-way bill for separate invoices. Subsequently, consolidate e-way bill can be prepared if goods transported in one conveyance. So, Beauty Cosmetic would be required to prepare two e-way bills, because they are supplying from two separate stores. So, separate e-way bill is required, and each consignment exceeds 50,000 rupees. So, for each invoice, they have to raise a separate e-way bill. Okay. CBIC has clarified that if multiple invoices are issued by the supplier to one invoice, of same consignor and consignee, multiple e-way bills have to be generated. For each invoice, one e-way bill is to be generated. For each invoice, one e-way bill has to be generated, irrespective of the fact whether the same or different consignors are involved. Multiple invoice cannot be clubbed. However, after generating all the e-way bills, one e-way bill can be consolidated for transportation purpose, that is EWB2. But the validity from the supplier and the consignor's perspective will be each e-way bill. So you cannot raise a consolidate e-way bill. You have to raise separate e-way bills. Number of invoices should be equal to number of e-way bills. You're right. How many invoices you will raise? You will raise two separate invoices. Even from same location, if you're raising multiple invoices, you cannot consolidate it. Each invoice, you have to raise separate e-way bill. Clear? I think that was a good session, which we have covered all the topics. What were the topics to be covered, and we have understood everything. And I'm very happy with your responses. Good. With a small crowd also, we could do a lot of interaction, lot of brainstorming, lot of teaching and learning. Good. If there is any questions, please post it and we can take it up. Anyways, all the best for your exams. Do well, prepare well, have a good preparation. Yes, Pooja.
सर इन केस ऑफ एग्जेम्पशन में मुझे मतलब क्वेरी थी सर, गवर्नमेंट की एग्जेम्पशन के लिए, मतलब सर मैं कंफ्यूज हो जाती हूँ गवर्नमेंट एग्जेम्पशन पे जिसे आता है, तो इसकी कोई सोल्यूशन मिल जाएगा सर?
या गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज थोड़ा लंबा है, तो आपको एक एक
मतलब ये
सर्विसेज
हर जगह अलग अलग आ रही है ये सर्विसेज, कहीं
करेक्ट।
कंसोलिडेट नहीं है।
हाँ, मैंने जो स्लाइड भेजा उसमें गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज एक ही स्लाइड में डाला है, मैंने हैंड रिटन नोट्स है। अब उसको एक बार देख लीजिए, सभी सर्विसेज ऑफ गवर्नमेंट मैंने एक जगह पे डाला है। गवर्नमेंट कैन गेट इन्वॉल्व इन रेंटिंग, गवर्नमेंट कैन गेट इन्वॉल्व इन ट्रांसपोर्टेशन, करेक्ट। मल्टीपल जगह पे गवर्नमेंट इन्वॉल्व हो सकती है, तो उसको मैंने सभी एक ही जगह पे डाला। उसको एक बार देख लीजिए, यू विल हैव सम क्लैरिटी।
सर एक और बात, जैसे गवर्नमेंट सर्विस में 5000 की लिमिट होती है, क्या वो आरसीएम पे भी एप्लीकेबल होगी सर? जैसे कुछ
करेक्ट।
सर्विसेज आरसीएम में भी आती है, तो वहां
यस
पे
यस
5000 की लिमिट लगेगी या नहीं लगेगी?
यस यस, मिलेगी वहां पे भी। तो फिर जब भी आप आरसीएम पे करोगे, गवर्नमेंट की सर्विसेज अप टू 5000 है, तो फिर आपको आरसीएम पे करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी।
ओके सर, थैंक यू।
Sir, if GST rate for no job work is separately given, then we will be required to include it. Yeah, so that will be a through separate transaction, because when you send goods, then the job work will not raise invoice. Once he completes it, then he will give it. So that will be a through separate invoice, so you don't have to include it in the value of the consignment. Thank you, Manivaran. No exam tips. I think Board of Studies will have a separate session on exam tips. I think Shefali ma'am and Swati ma'am, they do good exam tips. You can follow them. Owner or operator get enroll number. It will not be per state. It will be not be per state. Just one state they will get it. Only in one state they can get an enrollment. In another state they will not get any enrollment. So they will get enrollment in only one state. Arbitrary tribunal services to business activity, RCM apply, and if any on then schedule 3. Correct. Any other schedule? No. Arbitrary tribunal services will be on the reverse charge itself. Okay. Good. So take care and all the best for your exams. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.